Now let's get into what I'm probably most excited for. I was a huge fan of Andor season 1. I don't know, I feel like it didn't get a lot of hype. There weren't a ton of people watching it. Understandably, people were burnt out on Star Wars, they're burnt out on Disney Plus shows. Perfectly understandable. However, Andor, the first season was, in my opinion, the first thing that was at least approaching like HBO quality television on Disney Plus. I think the writing is really good in this series. I think the acting is really good. It's set in the world of Star Wars, so the costume design, the set design, like all that stuff, you already have like that visual language to work with. And this being set in like the original trilogy era, you get a lot of that nostalgia, a lot of that feel from those movies in this series. But the fact that it's a Star Wars series, but there's no lightsabers, there's no Jedi, there's no Force. Like it's really not about the things that you typically instantly associate with Star Wars. It is much more seedy, much smaller, much more like street level, if you can say that, about Star Wars and an intergalactic franchise like this. But I think the writing is what really like elevated the show, because I watched every season of Mandalorian, I watched Book of Boba Fett, I watched Obi-Wan, I watched Ahsoka, and there's parts of those shows that I like. I think some of those are better than others. What was the Acolyte was another one. Some of those I think are good, some of those I think are not great. Most of them, even if I think they're generally good or bad, have good and bad moments in them. I wouldn't say any of them are particularly stellar, but Andor was the exception to the rule here. I tried to get as many people to watch it as I could. It was a tough sell, even for people who like Star Wars. Like, I get it. Like I said before, like feeling burnt out on the Disney Plus shows is perfectly understandable. But if you did miss season 1, I highly recommend going back and watching it. And hopefully season 2 lives up to it. I have not seen this trailer yet, so this is my first look at season 2. So let's take a look at it.
We're in a war.
Alright, I'm in. I'm back in. This looks like more of season 1. I wasn't aware of, obviously, this is a prequel to Rogue One, but I wasn't aware of all the characters we were getting back for this. I saw Ben Mendelsohn, Forrest Whitaker, and I think the droid is K2SO, if I'm not mistaken. But at least just based on some of these quick visuals, this looks like it's shot as well as the first one. I think the song they chose was a little strange. It's definitely not Star Warsy, but I think that helps kind of separate this from what you would expect from a Disney Plus show. And like all these quotes they're pulling praising season 1, it definitely feels like they're trying to convince you, kind of like I was a minute ago. Like, no guys, like the first season was good. Like even the people who didn't like the other slop we were putting out, they're like, wait, hang on, Andor is actually like legitimately good. You should watch it. This obviously doesn't give too much away, which I'm perfectly happy with. It just kind of gave me what I wanted, which is confidence that this looks as quality as the first season did. We're bringing some characters. I think Rogue One is generally pretty well liked. And like Ben Mendelsohn and Forrest Whitaker, like I don't think you can go wrong with either of those two guys. And it looks more practical. Like all these other Disney Plus shows, it feels like I know they shoot it, a lot of them in like the volume, and they just feel so artificial. But this has the practicality that I think like the original trilogy did, and Rogue One did for the most part as well. I think that's part of why people like that movie as much as they do, is it felt like a return to form in some ways, but the visuals of some of these ships and stuff, like, I think they had a pretty big budget, and it looks like they used it pretty well. I did see this tweet talking about season 2 will release in 3 episodes, or with 3 episodes each week, starting April 22nd, which I think is pretty close to the Last of Us season 2 as well. The season spans 4 years, with a year passing after each every 3 episodes. So it's kind of similar to season 1 in the sense that that season kind of worked in like 3 episode arcs. There's 12 episodes, and there's like 3 episode arcs. They didn't jump a year in between, but that definitely was kind of like how the show was paced. And I think they dropped 3 episodes and then went to weekly for the first season. But if they're more explicitly having these 3 episode arcs with a big time jump in between, I kind of like this release schedule. So I might do a recap for each 3 episode arc here. That's exciting. I'm very, very, very excited for the show.